There was a man who had experienced a lot of life, and he had a lot of successes and a lot of failures with finances, with women, with traveling, with general life. He'd mixed himself up with life quite thoroughly. And it didn't satisfy him. The little victories he won didn't seem to do anything for him. And even the defeats, while giving a certain kind of pleasure, he sensed that it couldn't be the whole of life. There has to be something else. But he didn't know what it was. He didn't know where to search. He didn't know who to believe. He didn't know how to think about it, how to talk about it, who to ask about it. Nevertheless, his dissatisfaction with his life, which was very exciting and very successful in ordinary terms at times, something seriously wrong. So he began to look around. And he went to libraries and he got books, and he'd get 10 books at a time, and the next day he'd bring the 10 books back and get another 10 books. The next night, bring those back and bring another 10 books. And he talked to people, and he got involved in clubs, and he took up hobbies, and he got involved with people in various ways. And I began to feel that this wasn't the answer. At least that was something. That was a start. This wasn't the answer to whatever it was he wanted, and he didn't even know that. So one time I went to the library. He got a religious type book, a spiritual book, a philosophical book. And he took it home, read it, brought it back, checked it out again, read it again. Finally, a certain phrase in that book, and in the other books he'd read, began to form in his mind, and began to seem to give him a certain amount of guidance to where he wanted to go, which he still didn't know where. And the phrase that formed in his own mind out of all his readings and inquiries was, "You must climb the spiritual mountain. You must climb the spiritual mountain." He said, well, that makes sense. It puts a nice little mental picture in my mind of what I have to do. I understand that. I'm certainly way down at the bottom of the mountain, distraught and distressed, suppressing all these negative feelings inside me. I must climb the spiritual mountain. Oh, pretty good. That's at least a small start. Then the question came up, but how am I going to climb the spiritual mountain? What does it even mean? How am I going to climb the spiritual mountain and get somewhere where I am not at the present time? So he searched around for a teacher, someone who could interpret the words in the book to answer his question. What does it mean to climb the spiritual mountain? And this went on for a long, long time, just as his original search did for books and guidance of some kind. This went on for years. Where am I going to find someone who can tell me how to do what I feel, I sense, is at least a right start? And he went to endless meetings. He went to churches. He went to religious groups, philosophic groups. He talked to ministers and psychiatrists and psychologists and all kind of people who offered themselves as sources of guidance and help and explanation. But got nowhere. He kind of sensed that people he talked to, they themselves didn't understand what they were trying to get him to understand. So he didn't want to stay with them. Now the situation was worse, this yearning to climb, no one to tell him how, no one to tell him exactly what to do. On and on the years went. On and on the dissatisfaction and the gnawing and the haunting with his present life began to increase its ferocity. And one day he heard about a man, that was simply called a teacher, who was supposed to be able to give him the instructions that he needed. So it took him some time to find the teacher, but he finally located him. And he walked up and said, "Sir, I understand you can teach me how to climb the mountain. Could you and would you please do so?" Teacher said, "Sure. I'll teach you how to climb the mountain." Sure. And the seeker was a little bit delighted and yet surprised at the direct, concise answer that the teacher gave him. He said, "Sure, I'll teach you how." No lectures, no long explanation. "Sure, I'll help you." So the student said, "Thank you. Well, when do we start?" The teacher said, "Well, first of all, let me ask you, in your present understanding of yourself, how sincere are you? How persistent are you? How badly do you want to climb the mountain? You told me this is what you want to do." I must tell you quite frankly that hundreds, thousands of people come to me over a year's period of time and say the same thing you did. And I always say the same thing to them that I just said to you. How sincere are you? And of course most of them say, "Oh, I'm quite sincere. I want this more than I want anything else." And most of them go away. So they were deceiving themselves. They really didn't want it. However, I give everyone a chance. I don't drive anyone away. So, fine, I'll teach you how to climb the spiritual mountain. So, the student said, "Fine, when can we start?" The teacher said, "Tomorrow morning." The teacher handed him an enormous map. And he said, "Now I'm giving you this map, and here's what I want you to do. I want you to put yourself under the discipline of following the exact instructions I'm going to give you in connection with this map. Now there are 100 different locations on this map. Every morning for the next 100 days, you're to go to this location marked. I've got them numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, on up to 100. Every morning you're to go to this location marked on the map. And when you get there, that will be the beginning of each morning's lesson on how to climb the mountain." The man was very grateful and very happy about it. Just think, here I found a teacher and he's going to teach me how to climb the mountain. He was so joyous about it. Things were going to change after all, inwardly. So next morning he looked carefully at the map, said, "Go to a certain place, 8 o'clock in the morning, be on time." And he drove out there. Sure enough, there's an enormous mountain there. And a few minutes later, a teacher showed up. And the lesson began. And the teacher said, "You understand, new students have to be taught on their own level of understanding. So what I've done here is asked you to come out to an actual existing physical mountain. And by paralleling the physical mountain with the invisible inner mountain, you will learn certain lessons, and you'll gradually transfer the physical lesson to the spiritual one, and it'll help you to climb. Because there's a certain parallel, most certainly, in being persistent, in preparing yourself properly and all that, in both actual mountain climbing and inner mountain climbing." The student said, "Fine, I'm ready to go." So the teacher instructed him, "Okay, start climbing the mountain." The student started climbing, and after 5 steps upward, climbs upward, he slipped and fell down, hurt himself very slightly on the arm. She said, "See, first lesson, you didn't watch where you're going. You didn't keep your eyes open. You didn't see that little sandy part over to the left there where you put your foot. You didn't see that it was solid ground, so you stepped on it and you fell down and hurt yourself. Try again." This time he tried again, and all during the day, various little petty accidents and mishaps happened to him, and after each one, the teacher pointed out, "You can see that you're not presently a mountain climber, but these experiences that I'm telling you, these lessons that you're learning from it, will eventually get you way on up there. For example, you didn't notice the snow and you slipped on that. You didn't prepare yourself properly. I told you to bring a rope. I said, be sure you bring a rope now to hook around that rock there to haul yourself up. And you forgot the rope. You keep forgetting half your equipment most of the time." So at the end of the day, the student said, "Fine, thank you very much. I've learned a lot. I didn't know how practical this was being. I certainly thank you. And I look forward to tomorrow morning's lesson." Teacher said, "Good night." So they parted and both went home. Next morning, student all eager. He was up at 5 o'clock, ready to go. Looked at the map. This time had to go quite a bit more distance, 100 miles way out somewhere. Promptly at 8 o'clock, remembering the lesson to be on time. Get out there at 8 o'clock, even before. Get out there. Sure enough, there was another mountain there, different kind this time. Different crevices, different surface material, a little more rocky than the previous mountain. Sure enough, the teacher showed up. Second lesson began. All through the day, learned how to go up a gravel slope, how to breathe properly, even don't exert yourself at the wrong places, for example. How to look above, see what's ahead, and try to learn the lessons from the mistakes you made in the past. Second day ended. The student felt again pleased with his progress, and the teacher complimented him in the right way, said, "You are indeed learning things." And the reason I'm saying you're learning things is I can tell. I can actually tell that you're beginning to prepare a little better, you're beginning to be more watchful, so on. So I went home. Third day, same thing, different mountain somewhere, different location, different mountain. Fourth day, on, up till the 10th day. After the 10th day, the student had learned to climb a mountain. He's beginning to make certain connections too. He's beginning to see how inner qualities, when they were exerted themselves upon a physical mountain, that they begin to develop, begin to think clearly, begin to think wisely, begin to think logically, and begin to see how wise the teacher was in assigning him to this actual practical task, physical task of climbing the mountain. 11th morning, student got up, all the more eager than before, got in his car, noticed the location, drove out to the 11th place, pulled the car up and stopped. Got out, he looked around, and he couldn't quite understand what was going on, because he looked around on this 11th morning, and there's no mountain at all. Indeed, he was isolated way out on a flat, broad plain, not even hills. As far as he could see on the horizon, no mountains, no rises at all. And he got a little worried that he might miss his appointment with the teacher because he had misread his map or something. So he got the map out, rechecked it. And now was doubly puzzled because he was in the right place. There was the map that said, be on the 11th day at a certain place. No mountain. He said, well, if I have made a mistake, the teacher will certainly straighten me out when he gets here. So he waited for the teacher, and he waited, and he waited, and he waited. Got to be noon, 2 o'clock, 4 o'clock. Got dark, 6 o'clock, no teacher. And all the confidence and all the enthusiasm that he had had before vanished. Which, by the way, he noticed. He remembered, having increased his power of right memory over the first 10 days, he remembered that when he drove up there, he was in charge of everything, so it appeared, and he was excited, enthused. The exact opposite was his state now. He was actually depressed. As he drove back home, 1,000 contradictory thoughts raced through him. First of all, a shock. The teacher had told him to come out there on the 11th day, and not only was there no mountain to climb, but no teacher. And he began to notice something going through him. It was very strange. It was strange because it was the first time he'd ever seen such a feeling inside himself, which was one of feeling betrayed. He had taken someone else's word for what to do, and apparently that person, that teacher that had seemed so nice and kindly and true, that nice teacher had apparently betrayed him. At least that's the thought that went through his mind. He says, all of a sudden he helped me, and now he's tired of it, now he's deserted me, and he's sent me on a wild goose chase off to where there's neither a mountain or a teacher. He didn't sleep very well that night. He turned and he tossed and he worried, felt very heavy and very hateful at what had happened, very hateful. But he noticed that he was hateful. He remembered that he was hateful. So he wondered what to do on the 12th morning. Should he get up and try again? What should he do? Should he just stay home? Maybe something happened to the teacher and he'd contact him at home, but certainly things weren't working out according to what he expected. Then he remembered something. At 6 o'clock, when there's just enough time to drive to the 12th location, he remembered something. He remembered that he had agreed with the teacher to carry out the instructions for 100 straight days. And then he remembered that the teacher had never really outlined or detailed what would happen at every one of the 100 places. He saw that he himself had set up expectations that things were to continue for the 11th day on as they had been for the first 10 days. Okay, all right. I made an agreement with the teacher that I would follow the instructions for 100 straight days regardless of what happened, regardless of outcomes, regardless of how I feel about anything. All right, a bargain's a bargain. So I got in his car and he drove out to the next place. Get out there, again, no mountain. He checked his geography again, in the right place. Waited for the teacher. Teacher didn't show up. When it got to be about noon, he knew it was going to be a repetition of the previous day, that things weren't going to be as they were before. Things were going to be different, the same as they were the previous day. But he waited. Finally at night, he drove home. Again, the feeling of being betrayed increased. Sleepless night, turned and tossed, wondering what to do. Feeling lost, no guidance. Never mind. I do remember one thing above all, he said to himself, that I agreed to go for 100 days, and I'm going to do that. I don't know what's going to happen on the next day or the next day, but I'm going to follow out each day's instructions each day, regardless of anything. So for the next several days, he looked at the map, noticed the location, drove on up to where he was supposed to be, and every single time after that, from the 11th on up, flat plain, no mountain, no teacher. No mountain, no teacher. We couldn't understand. If I'm going to learn how to climb a mountain, why isn't there a mountain there to practice on? Even if the teacher had said, come out here alone and practice on a mountain, I could have understood that, because I understand the need of self-reliance. But when the teacher disappears, no explanation, not telling me what I'm supposed to know. But he knew one thing, that he'd made a commitment, an agreement, to follow out for the entire 100 days. In spite of his confusion, he followed it out. So the 100th day finally came, 100th morning. And he got in his car, driving out there, with great fear, because this was the last day. This was the last day in which he could follow the instructions of the teacher, where he could get someone to guide him. And he felt a certain security in that. But he also felt a great insecurity in that tomorrow would be the 101st day, and he had nothing to guide him, no one to help him. So with the greatest terror he'd ever known in his life, he drove out there, watching what was happening to him as he drove. For one thing, he thought, I know what. The teacher will probably appear on this last day and explain everything, straighten everything. That's what. But he couldn't make himself believe it. Drove out, location, again, a flat plain, no mountain, no teacher. The agreement was to work from 8 to 6. So at 5 o'clock, 5 o'clock came, 5:30 came, quarter to 6. 5 minutes to 6, 1 minute to 6. And he wanted to die. The pain was so bad. But there was still a little light left. And at 1 minute to 6, as he walked around the place where he was supposed to meet the teacher, who didn't appear, he saw a rock over to his right-hand side. And he thought he saw something on top of the rock. In the dim light, it wasn't quite clear, but he thought he saw something. So he walked over to it. Sure enough, there was something. There's a piece of paper weighted down by a small stone, folded over. And of course, he was intensely curious as what was on the note, so he picked it up, unfolded. And there was one short sentence on it. And he looked at it, and pondered a minute, and he looked at it again, pondered it a minute. Finally, it came clear to his mind what the note said, what it was getting at. The note said, there is no mountain to climb. And there is no mountain to climb. Just faintly he grasped what that meant. So he put the note in his pocket and drove home. Never again saw the teacher. Never again went out to have his mountain climbing lessons. But what he had was a little note that said, there is no mountain to climb. And begin to think about that, and to ponder and be puzzled over it, and to wonder what it meant. And the more he thought about it, at first not making any sense, but the more he thought about it, gradually, something inside of him began to explain the meaning of the message that there is no mountain to climb. And then he connected it with all the previous lessons he had had in the first 10 days with the teacher, in which he was given certain ideas about climbing a mountain, certain ideas of persistence, ideas of wanting to climb more than you want anything else. And gradually these began to contribute to his understanding that there's no mountain to climb at all. And finally, after many, many years of studying that and pondering it, he understood what it meant. And he was so grateful for the technique, the method of the teacher who had first given him knowledge and then had said, from now on, you have to go on without a teacher. Take that knowledge and see what it means personally to you. And what it meant personally, and what it's going to have to mean to all of us personally here, is that there's a mountain to climb only as long as you have built-in obstacles. There's a mountain to climb as long as you want to go somewhere in distance, in space. There's a mountain to climb as long as you want to go somewhere in space, up. There's a mountain to climb only as long as you want to go somewhere in time. You can start to climb the mountain at 8 o'clock in the morning, and maybe by 10 you've made progress. But all this is thinking. All this is thinking that there is a you who must climb the mountain, who must make progress. And like a dawn that came up fast and furious, it hit him. If the mountain disappears as a necessity to climb, the mountain climber also disappears as a necessity to exist. How can one exist without the other? They go together. There's the mountain climber, therefore there must be a mountain. There's a mountain, there must be a mountain climber. If one disappears, the other disappears, and then you understand. I can use the words that is necessary for each of us here in this room to climb the mountain. But that is accomplished when seeing there's no one to go anywhere up, nothing to accomplish, nothing to do, nothing to overcome, nothing to battle. The only thing to do is to understand the opposites, the disappearance of the opposites. And that when that is accomplished, then you can say consciously and know what you're talking about, that the mountain has been climbed. Not by you. The first 10 days, you're still trying to climb the mountains, and indeed you get certain instructions which can be changed, turned inwardly rather, into practical guides, good ideas. We call them a truthful idea. You had better get to the 11th day, where you're without a teacher who's going to give you knowledge, who's going to give you ideas. You're loaded with it. Look at the years some of you have been coming here, or even months you've been coming here. And you've been told what to do. You've been given exact instructions of what to do. I wonder what would happen to most of you if this class was to discontinue. You've come here for 10 days, and now comes the 11th day. You come here, no class. no teacher. All you've got is your ideas that you've accumulated over the time. All you've got is other people who have also simply accumulated knowledge. And you're all going to meet there at the mountain. All of you are going to meet at the base of the mountain and talk about climbing it. Actually get up and climb the physical mountain, in illustration. Climb it, fall down. And each of you tell the others, oh no, here's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to approach from over here, not from over there. Or go faster, or go slower. And you all give each other intellectual instructions in climbing it. And not one of you will reach the top. Maybe if you come here on the 11th day and there is no class and no teacher, you'll remember the note that says there's no mountain to climb. That's the end of it. That's the absolute end of the whole inner journey. See, I have to use words. I use the word journey. That implied time and space, but I have to use them. If there's no mountain to climb, what are you going to do? How can you climb a non-existent mountain? You have to become as non-existent as the mountain, which you are anyway, and so is the mountain non-existent. You have to go from the symbols, from the words, from the mental pictures, go from that to see that if you rise above all these, what's there to do with your life except live it sanely? There is insanity in scrambling up that mountain. I hope I make it. I hope I don't slip and fall. I wonder if I can make progress today. I wonder if the teacher's standing back there ready to catch me. I wonder if I have the right preparation, the number of ropes. That's insanity. That's you trying to make progress up the slope. Worried, worried, worried as you all are as to whether you're going to make it or not. Truth has no concern of whether it's going to make it or not. It has it made. Truth is at the top where it always has been and always will be. When you and truth are one, when you and reality are one, where's the mountain to climb? Where's the work to do? Where's the struggle? Where's the bruised hands and the aching heart? All disappeared, all gone. Then yearn for the day, which is the 11th day. You have to go beyond the 10th day, you know. You'll fight it. And when it's presented to you in these classes, you look around and you say, where's all the guidance I was supposed to get? Why don't we go faster? Why can't I get it? Endless questions. He that endureth unto the 100th day shall be saved. He that endureth unto the 100th day will be saved from the delusion that there's a mountain to climb and someone to climb it. What is your reaction to the statement that you can conquer the world? What's your reaction to the idea that you can conquer the whole universe? The world, let's get broader than that. The universe is conquered by abolishing it. Where does this world that you're trying to conquer come from? I'm not talking about the visual world. You can see people and cars and houses out there. I'm talking about the psychological world. You want to conquer the financial world. You want to conquer the social world. Where does this world that you want to conquer originate? Inside your own mind and inside your own desires. That is the only place the world exists, the psychological world. To conquer it, put an end to it, which is the same thing as putting an end to compulsive thought, to mechanical thought. When there's no world left to conquer, it is conquered, but then the whole idea of conquering the world has vanished. As long as you think there's a world to conquer, you'll never conquer it. You'll be lashed by it. You'll hit your head against its walls 1,000 times a day. Don't you understand there's nothing for you to do? There's nothing to be done. Atheists like you can't understand that. An atheist being someone who is his own petty god, who is his own conqueror, his own dictator. And it will all be unconscious. And if you don't understand what I'm talking about, I'll tell you why you don't understand it. Because you're pressing down in your mind right now, and I'm looking at you, I'm looking at you, and I can see your mind's operating. You're pushing down in your mind all truths, all ideas that you're being presented that seem to be a blow to your wish to conquer the world. Because as long as there's a wish to conquer the world, you and your wish are one thing, and that is the only life you have on this earth. And you'll never enter a world other than this one if you die in this state. Because you'll have died in time, and time comes to an end. Today you thought about the dinner out there. You thought about the fun we had. You even thought about ideas we had in these classes. Where are they now? Where are they now? You can recall them if you want. That's simple enough. You remember the apple juice you had out there? Go ahead, picture the apple juice. Okay, you've got the apple juice in your mind. That's a thought, an idea, huh? That will go away, won't it? Where's it going to go when your physical body dies? It's going to disappear. You had better listen to what I'm going to say next. Do you want some kind of a power, a force, an intelligence, an energy inside of you that is higher than the thought about apple juice? The world doesn't. A man could spend his whole day being angry because someone on the picnic broke the jar of apple juice and he didn't have it. Or he broke it and he's ashamed to admit it. Now he has to go down and pay $2 more and get another one. What kind of a human being is that who would spend an hour even just a half hour of his life being dominated by the idea, the repetitious, tormenting thought of a jar of apple juice? We're not very high level, are we? If that man was in this class and was applying these principles, maybe something could happen to the apple juice. The jar could be broken in some way. And you know what he'd do? If he was working, he'd say, as a practical fact, the jar of apple juice broke. And he'd go get another one, or he wouldn't, depending on different circumstances. But if it cost him $2 more, and you'd better pay attention to this, he's not going to sell his soul for $2 worth of apple juice. He's not going to secretly resent it. And maybe it's about time I told you something. You had better bring right out into the open, every one of you. I've had close contact with a number of you here over a period of years. And you don't know how well I know your minds. You don't know how well I know how very important to you to either get or to not lose. You don't know how well I understand how you are falsely chained by economics, by thoughts of money. You don't know how much greed I see in you. You don't know how much petty chiseling I see in you. You don't know how much I see you trying to buy things by spending money. You're delighted when you find a dime on the street that makes your next half hour. Poor, miserable human beings. And you've never exposed that to yourself. You want advantages in that home that you bought cheap, or you resent it because you had to pay too much. And you come to this class and say you want something different. You don't even know what is enslaving you. How can you chop the chains if you don't watch that small little thought and be free of it? About finances. Now we could go to many other areas too. Slavery consists of not seeing what is happening to you at the time it happens. And the experiences in our life, the thoughts that go through our minds and the feelings go through us, go with such lightning-like speed. There's no way you can catch them unless you are equal to the speed, so you can go right alongside with it. The thoughts in your head and your feelings are going 1,000 miles an hour, and your power of perception is going 10 miles an hour. How can you see it when it's going like that? It's in and out before you can catch it. Lots of the exercises we've had in this class enable you to think faster, move faster, catch it now, do it now, get it done, bang, bang. You're lazy, you're like sloths, you know the sloths that hang down from trees and just hang there. And you never move unless someone speaks to you. You never jump unless a horn honks. You have no initiative at all. You stand there and wait for someone to tell you what to do or what to think. And then when you do move on your own, you move in the wrong direction. If there's anything you take out of here from this afternoon session, you take out the fact that you don't know how bad your inner condition is. You sit here and you quote little phrases, as some of you did a while back, and you talk to me. You sit right out in that audience and you talk to me in your sleep, and I know it and I see it. And I wonder how on earth to get through your thick head. I know what happened to you as a child, as a 20-year-old. I know how the world threw its trash on your desk and you obediently picked it up because they told you that it was dollar bills. I know that's happened to you. It happened to me too. But I have also told you that it's time to grow up. It's time to get that smirk off your face. Time to get rid of that childish feeling, that childish attitude that if only your husband or wife or someone else or the government, something would change, then you'd be all right. You're believers in magic, the wrong kind of magic. Go ahead if you want. I'm going to tell you something. If the rest of you want to continue the way you have in the past, I'm free of it. It's not my responsibility if you want to sit in this room and quote and lie. That's your responsibility. But I want to tell you what you are missing. I want to tell you that there's gold that you know not of. Gold which is limitless. And you've been told about it. You've been told that there's gold pieces, to use the figure of speech, for you. But you want to stay home and cut out little pieces of paper, put a dollar sign on it, and say this is $1. You do it here in this room. You called your own foolish talking to me. You're foolish talking to me. You come up to me and you talk foolishly. 9 out of 10. Once in a while, someone will say something that I can sense is said right. Business matters, for example, are always right. But you come up to me with your desperation. You come up to me with your desperation, which means you never listen to any of the talks you hear. When you come up to me and start telling me about your problems, especially at the wrong time, and don't any of you, by the way, come up to me during the fun time anymore. This is the time to ask questions right now in a little bit. You come up to me in your desperation, and I look at you, don't you, sir, madam, don't you listen to what you're being told? Can't you see you're sitting here and I'm sitting there and you're talking to me and you're telling me how afraid you are, how much life is pressing you down? You believe, unfortunately for you, in the power of evil. Believe in it, you are it. You and your belief are one. You believe in getting your feelings hurt. It's welcomed by you. It's sought out by you. If you're in any human relationship right now where you get your feelings hurt by the other person, you have prayed for that hurt feeling series to come into your life. How's that for a prayer? You've asked for it. Don't you dare come to me and tell me how badly someone treats you. You asked for it. This is what you like, and you ask for it because this is what you like to give. You like to give hurt feelings. When someone hurts your feelings, dominates you in some way, and you cry or you get angry, you're very immoral. Your crying or getting angry have gone back to the original person again and hurt his feelings. He or she gets hurt feelings by having a sense of power to hurt your feelings. And you have helped wreck him or her. See, you fall into each other's traps all the time. Why don't each one of you here determine that effective as of right now, 5 after 3 about, you're going to be strong. Whatever relationship you have with that other person, anyone, boss, wife, anyone, you are going to be strong. That's all that's required of you. And you'll begin to be strong if you remember what I just said, that this evil really has no power of it all. The only power it has is your state. Evil is your state. That's the power it has. If you change your state, if you rise above it, then you rise above your own self-torment, your own self-hate, your own self-reference all the time, and the evil vanishes, because that's what evil is. Evil is essentially 1,000 varieties of self-reference. I look at myself and go wrong. If you can look at yourself and not believe in what you see, not accept it as being true, that's also the same thing as not believing in the power of it. Evil is a blind force, a mechanical force. It knows not what it does. It never knows what it does. And there's no way you can explain it to it because it can't hear. No way it can hear. This is what is known as being spiritually deaf. We're doing something else. Having been tired of the old ways of punishing ourselves, we're not going to take it as necessary anymore. Right defiance. Do you know that even the smallest of a right attitude will invite the strength that you need to carry it through to a right conclusion? The smallest attitude of not wanting to be this way anymore, not wanting to live in this darkness anymore. Want to know what a right prayer is? That's a right prayer. If you are capable of paying real strict attention, which means you have a relaxed mind, then you could go out of this room with no problems at all. I'm going to talk about problems tonight. I'm going to postpone what I was originally going to talk about and go into the matter of problems, because I see a room full of problem-dominated people. The worst mistake I could make would be the mistake of making the assumption that you want to solve your problems. You have no intention of solving them. You have no wish to solve them. You don't want to learn how to solve them. You don't want to learn how problems come into existence. You don't want to learn how you keep them going through your own ignorance. Your ignorance has become your idol, your God, your object of worship for so long, so repeatedly, so devotedly, that you're not hearing me when I start talking, which I did, about the fact that you don't want to give up your problems at all. They're all you've got. However, if you could hear me tonight, you could lose all your problems and go out of here at 8:30 with no difficulties at all. Nothing to do, nothing to fight, nothing to cry about, nothing to worry about. No matter what happened to you out there, you're wrongly connected with what happens out there. And that wrong connection with what happens out there is you out there when you should be living in here. You're living out there. You look at the other people who've succeeded more than you have. Or you look at someone who's causing you trouble, and you look at that person who's causing you trouble, and you say, "You are causing me trouble. Will you give me peace of mind by not causing me trouble?" See, you put the problem out there. Someone's causing me trouble. They don't behave right. The whole world doesn't behave right toward me. Everyone's out to get me, to cheat me, to slander me, to hurt me. Everyone's out to hurt me in one way or another. See, you're living out there. Instead of living very quietly and very unconcerned with what happens to you as a result of what happens out there. You think, use any words you want, but you think your destiny, your fate, your future, your happiness, your well-being, you think your command depends upon you handling things out there properly. There's no way you can handle things out there properly. If you could have, you would have. So you'd better understand what I'm telling you. I'm not going to make the wrong assumption that you want to solve your problems. What I'm going to do is show you the source of your error. Then you take the leap. Then you make your decision as to whether you want to drop that source of error, which is the way you think, the way you feel, your whole habit system, in which you want to save yourself, not seeing that the self you want to save is the self that is tormenting you. There isn't one of you here that doesn't live in torment. I was watching a number of you walking around and seated in front of me while you were watching me, of course. And I saw people with self-torment in them. So all of you, listen to what I'm going to tell you. I'll try to illustrate it. Here's a man, a woman, wants to solve his problems, he thinks. He says, I want to solve my problems. Look what they're doing to me. I want to solve them. So he goes to someplace. He goes to a clinic of some kind run by a charlatan. And the charlatan charges him a lot of money, of course, a lot of money, all the traffic can bear. He sizes you up on the application. What's your occupation? You don't know what that has to do with it, but he does. He's going to charge you more if you're making a lot of money. So the charlatan gets you in there and you say, paid my money, solve my problems. So there's 50 rooms in the clinic, so-called clinic, 50 rooms. He says, you go into that room there and your problem will be solved. You don't know what it's all about, but you go in there, and when you go in, you feel terribly nervous just going into the room, just a room with a few office furniture in it, but you feel very nervous about it. And you shake and you shudder. And you come out and you say, well, I went into that room to solve my problems. You said it solved my problems, but I just shook with nervousness. He said, well, if that didn't solve your problem, we'll try something else. You go down to the next room, room number 18 down there. So you go into room number 18, and you go into there. And the atmosphere of that room makes you shudder. You're afraid. You don't quite see what's going on, but you know you're afraid. So you come out of there and you go back to the charlatan again, and he sends you to a third room. He's in a fourth room, the fifth room. And each room you go into, you have a different emotion, a different feeling. You don't know what it's all about. But he knows, the charlatan knows, that if he can put you in any one of the rooms, you're going to keep coming back to him and paying him more money because your problem isn't going to be solved at all. You're just going to be under the delusion that something is happening to you. And you keep going back to him and paying him money, and he keeps sending you, you'll follow this, you'll see this in a minute. He keeps sending you to a different room each time until you get the habit of doing that. And for the time, the short time that you're in that particular room, that emotion, that mood, for the short time you're in there, it seems as if you have solved your original problem, but you don't see what the present problem is, which is that you're scared, nervous, or whatever. Now listen to this. If you run across a truthful teacher, if you run across truth itself, it would ask you one question, which is this. Why do you go into any of those rooms? Why do you go into the tearful room? Why do you go into the jealous room? Why do you go into the nervous room? Why do you go into any room at all? And you get thinking about it. Well, the reason I go into any room is because I was told to do that. I saw my mother cry when she had a problem, so crying was obviously the solution. I saw my father get angry when he had a problem of any kind, so anger must be the solution. Back to the question. The question is, why do you go into any room at all? In short, incredibly, why do you try to solve your problem? Come on now, you tell me. You tell me. I'm asking you a question, right, this audience. Why do you try to solve your problems? Well, basically it's pure ignorance, in which you're simply, look how simply we can state it, in which you're simply doing the wrong thing. You're going into that room, one room after another, fear of the future, you name it. You go into one room after another because you're afraid to be without a problem. And you create them. You'll latch onto them so you can feel something and say that feeling is the solution. What would be your condition? What would be your state if you made no effort at all to find a solution to what's bothering you right now? You don't know, of course. You don't know. You've never been there. All you know is rushing from one room to another, one false solution, one habit to another, one internal habit to another, and external to drinking or whatever. All you know is running from one room to another in an attempt to find what you call peace of mind, which is the last thing you want. Because if you began to see if you could begin to see it, what is required of you to have peace of mind? First, it would make you rush much faster into the rooms because you'd be so scared of what you're facing, of what is required of you. And if you kept that up, you'd eventually get so exhausted, which is right. You wouldn't visit any rooms at all. Will you make an effort on your part to do something the next time you have a crisis of some kind, where you want someone else to solve your problem? When you do anything at all to try to solve it, will you go sit down on a couch all alone somewhere and let your hands relax and very, very passively watch what's going through your mind? Now, when you're watching passively, seated on that couch, and seeing these thoughts, have no concern what they are. You need not be concerned. You're standing aside from them and seeing race through your mind, and you see, now you know what temptation is. Now you know who the devil is. The devil is slipping 100 thoughts into your mind, telling you to get up, go somewhere and do something, or talk to someone, or to feel something. Or even while you're seated on that couch alone, the temptation comes to you to slouch and be depressed and forget what you're supposed to do, which I just instructed you to do, which would be to watch. The watcher, the passive watcher, has no problems at all. But you don't want to be that. You want to fight, and you want to struggle, and you want to dramatize everything, and you want an audience for it. You want other people to see you struggling. You want to talk about yourself all the time. Now you see, about 2 minutes ago, I gave you an extremely profound principle. And I wonder if just one of you here who heard it will do it. Tonight, tomorrow maybe. The next time you have a difficulty, a decision you have to make. A big decision, a small decision. You're concerned about something, about your health, about another person, about your finances. There are no exceptions. Whatever is bothering you, I challenge you to sit down somewhere, go like this, and give yourself that well-known shock of not making an effort to solve your problem. See, we've discovered something. The effort to solve it is it. Any movement my mind makes, my feeling makes, my body makes, my whole psychic system, any movement that I make out of habit, out of unconsciousness, out of preference, out of desire, any movement I make to solve the problem in any way at all by hiding out from it, by asking someone to make a decision for me, by loudly singing a song so as to distract myself, anything at all. Anytime I attempt to solve the problem, I keep it going, but have effectively hidden this from myself. Do you see what you've learned? See? Look, listen to this. The agitation over the decision, over the worry, over the problem, not knowing what to do. The agitation over it is it. All right? At 7 minutes after 7, I instruct you to simply give up your agitation. Okay? I instruct you never to come up to me again with a frightened look on your face, or any other person for that matter. I instruct you never again to talk nervously, either to yourself or to someone else. I instruct you to slow down, put your hands loose, your whole muscles loose, and watch the world go by. If you do that, it will go by. You won't be grabbing it. You won't be fondly taking it up in your hands and holding it, and then complaining that you have so many burdens. You don't have a single burden that you haven't asked for. You don't have a single worry that you're not clinging to. Because in your ignorance, which has reluctance to it, in your ignorance and your reluctance, you won't let go. You won't let go of the worry, which is you. Do you know what eternal life is? Do you understand what eternal life is? Which is the same thing as not having a problem-filled state. It's a state in which you don't create problems by thinking that you have them. The time state is the one in which your supposed self exists, which is mere thoughts about yourself. And these thoughts say, in order for me to be me, I must have something opposite out there to reflect back and say, I am me. Now, what could that be? Well, people talk about me all the time. I know they're talking behind my back. Pretty good. Pretty good. I've got a problem. I am someone with a difficulty. People are always talking about me. Oh, that's just the beginning. Think of the marvelous inventions that your sickness or my sickness can build up in order to keep the delusion going. I, of course, am innocent, and other people talk about me. There's my nice opposites there. Are you willing to be no one at all? Think about that. Of course, you don't know what that is yet. I'm asking, are you willing to investigate what it means to be no one at all in your own eyes, and therefore equally in the eyes of everyone else? So that you don't have anything to fight for. You don't have anything to do. You have nowhere to go. You have no strain over decisions. Is it that frightening to you to begin to enter another world? Is that so frightening that you can't take one small step toward it? And I'll tell you how to take one right now. You listen to what I'm saying. You listen to what I'm saying instead of interpreting it. And the way you can do that is to catch yourself right in the act while you're seated here right now in front of me. And you and I are having eye contact right now. All of you, to one degree or another. Can you sit here right now and apply the principle of noticing what's going on inside of you so carefully that you can, for the first time, detect something wrong in your thinking? You're being this passive watcher that I talked about. You're standing aside and internally seeing what you're thinking, what you're reacting. You might even see for the first time this reluctance that we're talking about, where you don't want to hear anything that appears to be a threat to you as you now consider yourself to be. Maybe for the first time you can see what I'm talking about. that the ego self, the self-glorified self, has a million tricks that you are permitting to be played on you at 12 minutes after 7. And I'm pointing these out to you now so that you can begin to put yourself on your own side instead of putting yourself against yourself. Instead of living in the world of 1,000 different ideas about yourself, 1,000 different concerns, you stop going into those rooms of agitation, of jealousy, of dullness, of excitement. I'm going to tell you something that your habits don't tell you. I'm going to expose your habit system to you and tell you, as I told you the other night, that there's no law, there's no compulsion, there's no necessity, there's no need for you to fall right into the non-solution to your difficulties. The charlatan is in your own mind, and you're obeying him unaware that you're doing so. You're lonely, you want this or you want that, and you're heavily spirited. And you think you're very foolish for all those things you used to do. I'm telling you, all this is invalid. Now it's 14 after 7, and you can be free of the whole business right now. Because you're being in this quiet state, and in this quiet state, your thoughts, your mind does not recreate other thoughts in your mind which say you have a problem, therefore look for the solution. Look at the pain you're in when confronted by this crisis, by this need to choose. Look at the pain you're in. Now make a choice so as to reduce the pain or abolish the pain. When you hear that charlatan voice, you say to yourself, but I make decisions 1,000 a day, and the next day I have to make another 1,000 decisions. So what you're telling me must be false. So if making decisions, going into this room or that room, if that's wrong, then what is right? What's the opposite of making a painful decision? Sitting back and watching my own mind threatening me as follows. If you don't do either this or that, you're going to be in trouble. You already are in trouble, but it says if you don't do this or that, you're going to be in trouble. Furthermore, you had better be careful that you make the right decision. Should I do this or should I do that? And you start to weigh them, don't you? If I do this, I'll get so much benefit, but I'll also lose that benefit. You don't have to go into either room. You can sit back and see how you've been tricked, how you've been deceived, and how compulsive it is, how powerful it is, wrongly powerful it is. How you're crying out for someone to relieve you from the need to make decisions. And you completely forget what you've heard in this class. That any decision which is an idea will make it necessary for you to make another decision based on an idea, then a third one, and a 10th one, and a 1,000th one. And this is the way your life goes. Sitting in your house, looking out the window, afraid of what's going on out there, afraid that the world is too much for you. Of course the world is too much for everyone. All the lunatics in the asylum are afraid of each other. Everyone is afraid of each other because they know what everyone is like, and you know what you're like. You know how you would behave if certain restrictions were removed. And you know what you're like when you have a chance to blow up at someone, knowing they can't yell back at you where you're safe. There's just one way to be unafraid. And that's not to be you anymore. All the talks, all the readings you do, all the exercise you do are designed to put an end to you as you now exist, as you now operate, as you now choose, as you now worry. If you think I'm going to take you serious, you've never been more mistaken. If you think I am going to fall into the trap that you fall in, you've never been more deluded. You come up to me and you cry, and you come up to me with a strained look on your face. And if you don't come up to me, you're coming up to someone else out there. And you tell me how heavy your life is. And of course, like all egotists, you're saying, but if you only knew what I've been through, if you knew what's ahead of me, if you knew how many debts I have, if you knew what financial debts I have, if you knew how poor I am, if you knew how my domestic situation is crumbling, if you were in my place, you'd understand what problems I have. You're wasting your time trying to con me just as you have conned yourself. I'm not going to believe in the charlatan that you believe in. See, you don't know what devils you are. I'm telling you, I'm talking to you right in this room. You don't know what devils you are. But I do. I see you operating. I see you trying to operate on me. I see you operating on each other. I see your little tricks out in the world. I see your proper facial expressions at the proper time in this room. Don't you understand why you're suffering so much? Don't you understand what self-torment means? It means you are believing in yourself. You're believing in your depression. You're believing in your hatred. You accept it as all you have, which it is. That's all you've got. Congratulations. All you've got is your hatred, and you cling to it. All you've got is your trickery, and you cling to it. Well, you just go ahead, each one of you, and believe in it all you want. You just wade in it. You just make tomorrow as you made today. And I can accurately prophesy what your next days are going to be like, just like they were your last days. The difficulty is, how can we get a human being to see what's going on inside him, inside her? How can we get a human being to detect the trickery of loving to be a sniper toward another human being? How can you detect the scorn while it's going on of anything that is not a part of my familiar history? How can I stop loving my own self-written biography? In short, how can I give up everything that's been valuable to me up to now? Well, one way to do it is to see what's been valuable to me. Which is to trust every charlatan that you have met and that I have met since we were little children. Now, that charlatan may not be in your life anymore, or he or she may be, I don't know. But I know that his or her evil work is still operating in your mind. You've taken that as the way. You're being told another way here. You're being told not to listen to that charlatan who gets your money and tells you to go under this or that reaction, into that response, into that word, into that feeling. Unless you want to stay sick. We're reversing the direction by consciously refusing to try to solve the problem, by consciously refusing to try to solve the problem. I'll be dramatic, okay? The clouds will drift apart, the clouds will divide, and you look into the beautiful blue sky up there, and you'll see that never, never, never was there any problem at all. Not really. The problem, now using that word deliberately, the problem was that I thought I had a problem. The problem was me thinking that there was a me there in the first place, who must have problems. I can't live without problems. Vernon can't live without problems. Stella can't. Al can't. If I'm willing to let myself go, and you are willing to let yourself go, there can't be any problems at all. There can't be any worries of the future. There can't be any guilt. There can't be any shames, because there's no basket to contain them. The basket which was me, I thought, has been seen through. Come on, world. Throw all the inflation at me that you want, all the fears that you want, all the insanity of the world at me that you want. I don't know who you're throwing it at. You're missing me by a mile. You used to be able to get me, because that insanity I feared out there was right here. Can you understand then that any breaking down is a false solution? Can you understand, can you understand, please, that you are not really connected with any other human being? You're not connected with any event. Not really. I said not really. You think you are, but I'm telling you that you're not. I'm telling you that you're whole, that you're complete in your real nature, in your actual nature. And when you see that, you'll know how to refuse the 10,000 problems, decisions, difficulties, pressures that come to you daily from the outside world. They may actually originate now, and you understand what I'm talking about. They may actually originate from a vicious person, from someone who Is behave badly towards you? But since there's no matching of that in you, what's it to you? It's just so unfortunate. It's just too bad. I feel sorry for you because you love the world. I feel sorry for you because you love yourself, and they're the same thing. There's no difference in the two. You're so madly in love with yourself, which is equaled by your love for the world out there. Of course, they have to be matched. Can you begin to suspect tonight that you're unreal? I will tell you that you are. You are unreal. What you take as being real is unreal. What you take as being actual are thoughts, ideas, desires, frantic feelings. You take them as being you, but I'm saying that they are unreal because they are merely passing themselves off as you, but you, not knowing enough yet, take them as being you, and you say, I am agitated. And then unknown to yourself, now you listen to what I'm going to say. Unknown to yourself, you say, how grateful I am that I'm agitated. I am someone. I exist. Now look at the contradiction you're in. Having told yourself this lie, you have to suffer from it. That's what suffering is, believing in your own lie. If you want to continue to be you, you'll have to continue to pay the price for being you. There's no way to separate the two. The delusion is the pain. The idea that you are you sparks off 1,000 needs to create problems in order to have them come back and attack you so you can say, see, I must be real because I have all these difficulties from the outside. What will happen if I don't answer the challenge? The thought comes to my mind that you have offended me, that you have ignored me, that you're not treating me right. That thought comes to my mind. And after all, you yelled at me. The thought comes to my mind that I have a problem. No. The problem is the idea that I have a problem with you screaming at me. I wasted all these years because I couldn't see that. I don't have a problem. I have an idea that came into my mind that I grabbed and said it's necessary for this idea to become me. You yelled at me. The idea said, you have a problem, you'd better answer it, you better react to it, you better do something about your problem. I never had one, but I thought I did because the idea was there, which I grabbed and believed in the charlatan message of it. You yell at me, scream at me fiercely. The idea comes, problem, react, do something about it. I yell back, I've got a problem. If I don't yell back, I don't have a problem. And I don't have to yell back because I never had a problem to begin with. I thought I did. You ought to take the last 3 minutes off this tape and listen to it over and over and over and over until you get it. You're going to feel very uncomfortable. Let me tell you in advance. You're going to feel very, very uncomfortable when you really sit down on your couch someday and just sit and be quiet and not try to solve that problem. You won't want to do it. You'll want to make a phone call. You'll want to think, won't you? You'll want to think. You'll want to race around. No principle is more important for you to understand our class poem, which we put off lightly, but believe me, nothing is heavier in significance for you. The class poem being, if you can take it, you will make it. If you can take it, you will make it. That's the whole thing, to come here and take all these insults to your precious little self. All these hard facts that you don't know what to do with, you hear them and you don't know what to do with them, do you? They slam against the stone wall of your mind. How many of you have a stone wall for a mind? You see? All right, that's all right. But if you can take it, you will make it, because you'll keep coming back here. It's just as if you're given a book. You're given one page of a book coming over here for the weekend. One page of the book. And then the book is given to you to take home, and it has 500 pages to it. Now, all of you, what are you going to do with the book that's been given to you over this weekend? You're going to take it home and set it aside? Or are you going to remember the one page you were given and investigate the whole book, because that one page gets you excited in a new way, in a right way? If you run away from what you've heard this weekend, you are sunk. But you don't know what that means. I'll tell you what it means. If you run away without opening the rest of that book, coming back to these classes, for example, listening to the tapes and reading the books, you won't know that you'll be worse off than you were before, because you've had a very, very faint taste of a new kind of food that leads to eternal life. And I don't say that word lightly. I didn't toss it off unconsciously, because it was the proper thing to put at the end of a sentence. You can have eternal life through the teachings that you're hearing here. And they don't belong to me or to Rick or to Chuck or to Juan or to anyone else. They belong to God himself. They belong to truth. They belong to eternity. And you can be a part of that.